are struggling, and Novak Djokovic feels some Wimbledon fans were rude. But we begin today with Spain beating France to advance to the European Championship game. France took the early lead, scoring their first goal of the tournament in regular play off a cross from Kylian Mbappe. But Spain responded with a bending shot by 16-year-old Lamine Yamal.
Look at this
and then took the
shot.
lead for good moments after that, winning 2-1. Wilbon, what were your takeaways from today's result, Mr. Soccer?
Tony, I guess two things. One, in just watching the game, I walk in, I'm getting ready to sit down and, partake of this. And remember the time so many people they walked into the Tyson Spinks fight, and by the time you get in your seat, Spinks is being carried out of the ring. All right, this wasn't over, but I felt that way. And the people are yelling already that France has scored. France hasn't scored the whole damn tournament. And now they score in the 9th minute or whatever, and it's a nice goal, and Mbappe's involved, and he doesn't have the mask on. So I was excited for all of that because, as you know, I've turned into a geek over this stuff. But, Tony, this 16-year-old kid scoring like that, bending that ball, that's worth the movie. If Beckham can bend it, what the hell was that? To bend that ball inside the post that way to tie the game, it was breathtaking, and it must have knocked France on their heels a little bit because then Spain scores what turns out to be the winner. My God, 16 years old. Seriously?
Yeah, so let's get to that for a second. Everybody knows I don't know much about soccer, but I know enough to know that people talk about the golden generation of American talent. We got a 16-year-old that can do that? I don't think we do. Not a 16-year-old.
Maybe not.
I don't think so. I complain all the time that there's not enough shooting. Not that there's not enough scoring, that there's not enough shooting on goal. There's a lot of shooting. So this was fun to watch. I sort of feel bad for France in this regard, Mike. They're walking into the Olympics. I'll bet they expected to win this. I'll bet they saw this as a prelude to hosting the Olympics and a sort of Francophile summer, and they're not going to get it now. And beyond that, I don't know much except that I've always thought that Spain and France were very worthy soccer teams.
Yes.
So let's move to the general consensus that 17-year-old incoming Duke freshman Cooper Flagg was excellent against the U.S. Olympic team yesterday. Now, there are no accurate stats on Flagg's performance at the scrimmage, but the video was compelling and the comments were extremely laudatory. So, Wilbon, what does this tell you about Cooper Flagg, and what does it tell you about Team USA?
Well, I've heard the hype over Cooper Flagg. I live with a 16-year-old high school basketball, AAU basketball player who been raving about Cooper Flagg. I heard about Cooper Flagg in my house for like 2 or 3 years. And I've expressed the customary skepticism. And I did this to Kendrick Perkins one day, who isn't impressed by anything, right, overly so. And I said, Perk, you believe this Cooper Flagg nonsense? And he goes, listen to me. I've seen this kid play. This kid is the deal. I'm like, what? What are you, Kendrick Perkins, what are you saying? And if everyone you talk to says this, so I'm willing to listen, except I heard the same stuff about Bobby Hurley after he lit up a team in 1992 that was a real dream team, the only one.
1992.
And how'd that turn out for him in the pros? It didn't turn out at all. So excuse my skepticism.
He was in a car accident, Mike.
Tony,
he was in a car accident.
Even before that, it wasn't going to be good.
Bobby Hurley in Dream Team, there was the same kind of scrimmage. And the college kids did great.
Yeah,
and Bobby Hurley was singled out as having done very, very, very great.
Yeah.
And the next day, the Dream Team got angry because this was leaked out there, and they held. Yeah, they had no points. But I still remember, and you still remember, Bobby Hurley 32 years later, and I think people will remember Cooper Flagg as a result of this. Look, he was the #1 recruit, as your son told you. And it's a big deal that he's going to Duke. But let's get to the real facts of this, okay? Because he's going to Duke and because he is a white player, assumptions are going to be made. Statements are going to be thrown out there. That is the nature of what we're dealing with here, as it is with Caitlin Clark. I hope he is a great player, but the pressure on him will be enormous. You and I talk about this on air and off air. Will there be a great white American basketball player again, sort of like Larry Bird? And if there is, will he be allowed to just be a basketball player, or will all these cultural notions overwhelm him?
At first. And the question, I hope this kid has the stomach for this, Tone, with parents who can help and teammates who can help. But, Tony, this is a real thing. People don't really want to get into it with Caitlin Clark. This is new. It is newer to women's sports. But there won't be that same reluctance and reticence when it comes to Cooper Flagg and Duke. And by the way, this U.S. team We'll get to that later on in the summer because you and I will pay real attention to them then. I don't know about them. I think they'll win.
We'll see.
I don't know about them. I don't know what this means.
We move now to today's action at Wimbledon, which included quarterfinal matches for men and women, 2 of which involved American players. Both Americans lost. Tommy Paul was beaten in 4 sets by Carlos Alcaraz. Emma Navarro, who had beaten Coco Gauff and Naomi Osaka, was routed by Yasmin Paolini 6-2, 6-1. Daniil Medvedev upset number 1 seed Jannik Sinner in 5 sets. Wilbon, where do you want to start?
I want to start with Alcaraz screaming at the box because that's where we left off yesterday, but I'm not going to do that because it was more of the same. It's like, please stop, young tennis players, and they won't stop. So, Tony, I'll go to Sinner, who is the number 1 ranked player in the world and the number 1 seed at Wimbledon. And he had to take a medical timeout at a point. I don't know what might have been going on there. Didn't get full explanation right away. But him being out, and we'll get to some more Joker in a second. It seems like it opens it up to me for Djokovic. But Sinner going out, I'm not going to say it's a surprise because he goes out to the number 5 player in the world who is very, very, very worthy himself. And we thought this was going to be a terrific match. But I think you got to start. The headline is Sinner going out, Tone.
I agree with you, but I'm going to go to American tennis for a second because much was made of the fact that Paul and Taylor Fritz were 2 Americans in the quarterfinals, American men in the quarterfinals for the first time since 2000. And this was seen as a resurgence of sorts. I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't know
Paul
about
just
that
went
either.
out in 4. I don't know what Fritz is going to do. Do you understand that no American man has won Wimbledon since Pete Sampras in 2000? And that no American man has won any major since Andy Roddick won the U.S. Open in 2003. That's 21 years ago. Mike, you and I are the same in this. We covered tennis. I covered tennis for Newsday, the New York Times, and the Washington Post. I covered McEnroe and Connors. I covered Sampras and Agassi. I covered Courier and Chang. What happened? What happened?
It's amazing.
Right?
We just disappeared from tennis on the men's side, and it's been a while, a quarter century, my God. Woo.
And Serena Williams kept all the women afloat in the last 10, 12 years.
Yes,
she did.
Novak Djokovic, I promised we'd get back to him, got through to the quarters yesterday, but wasn't happy about one aspect of it. Djokovic was upset that fans of his opponent, Holger Rune, often droned Rune, which sounds similar to boo. Joker called it disrespectful to him, saying that fans knew what they were doing. Tone, do you see this whole Rune thing as disrespectful to Djokovic?
It's fine.
I am so tired of this guy.
Yeah.
I know you love him.
No, I don't.
And I know you think he's the greatest of all time.
I do think that.
You do. You've said it
But
a
I
number
don't
of
love
times.
him.
I think he's a great player, one of the greatest of all time.
Yeah.
Not the greatest of all time.
Yeah.
But there comes a point where you want to say, enough already. This is the same person. I find it easy to root against him.
Yeah.
It's the same person who deliberately lied on his entry visa for the Australian Open. The same person who not once, but more than once, whacked at a ball in anger and hit a linesperson, some innocent person in that. And now he's telling the rest of the tennis world how to behave.
Yeah.
All right? I think they were saying roo and not boo. When you
I'd
go
say
to a
boo.
Bruce Springsteen concert, they go Bruce. They're not saying boo. The fact of the matter is, grow up already. Don't lecture everybody about how to behave. Win people over with your play, not with this kind of whining. I really hope you agree with me on this one.
Listen, I think he's the greatest of all time. I also find his behavior loathsome often. I don't like him at all. As a matter of fact, let me be plain about this. I dislike him. Let me give the reaction I would have given if I'd been sitting at courtside today. Boo! It's directed at you, dude, because I find your behavior loathsome. Am I clear about that? Do I think he's the GOAT? Yes, I think he's the GOAT. Am I now rooting for him to get his butt kicked bagel? Yes, I am. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen, Tony. The nerve of you to think that people don't have the right to boo you. Oh, my God, he's dislikable. Am I playing on that?
So If I'm not mistaken, when I was watching today, I thought I saw the greatest player of all time in the stands. I thought I saw Rod Laver. Am I wrong on that?
Ooh,
I thought
I'm
I
okay
did.
with Laver being
Let's take
there.
a break.
I'm all right with that.
Check me out. Let's take a break. Coming up, how concerned should the Yankees be about their recent struggles?
Got me all worked up. Djokovic, please. What's the word for Zach Edey's Summer League debut? Seriously, it's hard to be any more dislikable than Novak Djokovic, but he's great.
Oh, you've come over to my side.
No,
on
I was
this.
never on
Makes
the
me
side of
happy.
liking him. I don't like him.
First,
it's blank that the Yankees have lost 15 of their last 20.
it's stunning. They were cruising along in April and May and the beginning of June. They were 50-22, Mike. They had the best record in the American League. They can't buy a win now, and they're about to go on the road in division in Tampa and Baltimore. And by the way, they're looking up at Baltimore. Their ERA when they were 50-22 was 2.77. Since then, it's 6.19. It's the worst in baseball. And Aaron Judge, their best hitter, is 2 for 20 at the moment. And more importantly, last year when he got hurt and their offense disintegrated, it's disintegrated with him out there right now. They're batting 26th in the whole league, 244. It's stunning.
Yeah, Tony, he's 2 for 20. You're right. All those things are true. But, Tony, it's still irrelevant. That's the word. Because the Yankees, despite being the worst team in the league over the period you described, worse than the Cubs and White Sox, my God. Tony, it's still irrelevant because they're only 3 games behind Baltimore, which is, as you know, nothing as long as you follow baseball. And in the wild card, because the Major League Baseball is now damn near like the NHL and NBA, a lot of teams get in. They can still get in. You don't need to have the number 1 seed. It's completely unimportant. Still irrelevant. The Yankees are right there. So if they can weather this, and there's no reason to think they can't get it back just like they had it there at 50-22, they'll be fine. It'll be relevant then, but not now.
The ERA is awful. What's next?
Zach Edey's Summer League debut last night was blank.
My word is intriguing. Zach Edey, to me, is the true curiosity of the NBA. He's a big low-post center who does not drift out and take threes. He's a throwback. I find myself rooting for him. I was happy to see that Memphis drafted him at number 9 because, Mike, I was afraid he would fall through the whole first round. I know he's slow. I know he needs to work on his hand strength to protect the ball. But if I'm not mistaken, he had 14 points and 15 rebounds last night. And if he can get that, he plays all the time.
Yep.
You know, Mike, you know how you bemoan the fact that starting pitchers don't go deep in games anymore?
Yes.
I bemoan the fact that low-post centers do not exert influence in the NBA, and I want to see him do that.
Tone, I'm pretty much with you here. First of all, he's not slow. He can run the court. You're right about the hands, though. You and I watched him all the time and talked about it in real time. Yeah. He'd get the ball. You can work on the strength of your hands. There are trainers and assistants and all kinds of people who can deal with that, and they will. But, Tony, my word is analytics crushing. Because all the people who believe and live by analytics want to tell you that kid can't play in the league, and they're idiots. Right. He can play in the league, and if you think that Ja Morant, who's missed a year and wants to get back and wants to be part of the big action like his peers, like SGA and others of that time, if you think that Ja Morant's not going to figure out how to use Zach Edey, you'd be a fool too, like the analytics guys who are being crushed. Zach Edey can't play. That little half hook he's got, you think it's 7'4", he doesn't need to be Kareem, he can't shoot that? Kill the analytics, kill them.
CILL.
Yeah.
Kill the analytics.
You remembered that.
That's the final word. Let's take, of course I do. Eddie Murphy, kidding me? Let's take one last break. Still to come, Ellie De La Cruz puts on another show on the base paths.
And does Canada have a shot at upsetting Lionel Messi in Argentina tonight? I'm watching that.
So I do find myself rooting for Edey.
Me too, Tony. I do. I root for Zach Edey.
He was a legitimate college dominating center.
Yes.
And I'd like to see the NBA. Happy time, people. Happy 69th birthday, Willie Wilson. The longtime center fielder for Kansas City is in the Royals Hall of Fame. Wilson led the American League in steals in 1979 with 83. That year, Wilson batted .315. 3 years later, Wilson led the American League in hitting, batting .332. He was a 2-time All-Star, and a 2-time Silver Slugger. Perhaps Wilson's most potent weapon was his speed. 5 different times, Wilson led the American League in triples. He had 21 triples in 1985, the year the Royals beat the Cardinals in an all-Missouri World Series, I-70 World Series, I believe. Wilson's 147 career triples are the most career triples since Wilson retired in 1994.
Tony, you know who could have played Willie Wilson? If there was a biopic in the movies, he's dashing and handsome and could have been Willie Wilson. The late, great Richard Roundtree, whose birthday is also today. John Shaft. We talking about Shaft.
Right.
82 years old he would have been. Thought you'd like that.
Happy anniversary to the Los Angeles Lakers. On this day 56 years ago, the Lakers acquired Wilt Chamberlain from the Philadelphia 76ers. Although Wilt was only 32 years old and had just won his 3rd straight MVP, Chamberlain was asking for more money than the Sixers were willing to give him. So they traded him for Jerry Chambers, Archie Clark, and Darrell Imhoff. 3 fine players, but not in Chamberlain's league. Chamberlain played 5 seasons in LA, helping the Lakers get to 4 finals and winning the championship in 1972. In retrospect, Chamberlain was the first in a series of great NBA stars who headed west to the Lakers, followed by Kareem, Shaq, and LeBron.
Put on your historian hat now. They ask you a tough one. I know that your Knicks beat Wilt in one of those finals, but the team that won 33 in a row and featured Wilt and Jerry West and Goodrich, is that the greatest team of all time, yes or no?
No. Did I answer quickly enough? No.
Wow.
No.
Wow.
It's a great team. It's not the greatest.
Okay.
Happy trails to Ellie De La Cruz stealing 3 bases in a row. In last night's first inning against the Rockies, the Reds' young all-star waited until the ball was on the way back to the pitcher, Ryan Feltner, to steal second. Several pitches later, he stole third. But his attempt to complete the trifecta by stealing home was thwarted when his left hand got blocked by catcher Elias Diaz's left foot during a double steal attempt.
Double steal.
De La Cruz has 45 stolen bases this season. That's on pace for 80. That would be the most steals in baseball since 1988, when Rickey Henderson led the American League with 93 and Vince Coleman led the National League with 81. You remember that, Wilbon, when people stole bases?
Yes, I do. And Tony, I think I'm glad to see it. It's a little jarring because it was absent for a while as people just tried to hit 3-run homers and baseball crazies worried about spin rate and obsessed over that. Stolen base, pretty exciting stuff.
Okay, so I think a lot of this has to do with the larger bases. All the series of rules that came in.
Makes sense.
And you can't throw to first more than twice.
Thanks to Theo.
I think it's to encourage, it's to encourage running around the field. And I will tell you this. The Nats, who I watch all the time, they're not a good team, but they run a lot. They steal a lot of bases. And you know what, Mike? It's exciting. It is exciting to see a catcher jump out of that crouch and deliver that ball to second. That's a great play that we missed for 10 to 12 years,
Tony,
right?
You know what baseball is without that kind of activity and without the stolen base? You know what it is? It's soccer.
No, it's not soccer.
It's less active than soccer.
But it's not as good as it could be.
No, it is.
And some of these rules are making it better. All right, let's go to the big finish.
To see that game. We don't know if Messi's about his fitness. We don't. It's a mystery around that. So it's hard to just say what Argentina's going to do just yet.
Scheme should start the All-Star game.
No, he shouldn't.
Don't be a dope.
Please stop.
We're out of time. Try and do better the next time. I'm Tony Kornheiser.
Have 3-4 times as many wins as the next guy and just sit on the bench because it's a TV show. I'm Mike Wilbon. Same time tomorrow, Knuckleheads. You can get the podcast on the app or Apple Podcasts. This is a TV show, not the All-Star.
KD looking to make a little history, hoping for a 4th gold medal. What can you share with us about the status of his injury, Tim?
Well, Hannah, Kevin Durant was talking about hopefully playing in Abu Dhabi because he is not playing here in Las Vegas on Wednesday night against Team Canada. What is going to be a very highly anticipated opening game of this 5-game exhibition slate. Canada, as you mentioned, Hannah, has a ton of NBA talent, I should say, led by MVP candidate Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. They're going to be one of the medal favorites in France when we get over there to the Olympic Games. But Team USA obviously is the heavy favorites with a team that's been compared favorably to the Dream Team back in '92. And for any team, obviously not having Kevin Durant could be a problem, but Team USA could turn to, say, Jason Tatum or Kawhi Leonard or Anthony Edwards or Jrue Holiday or a host of players potentially fill his spot in the starting lineup. And this will be our first opportunity, Hannah, to see exactly what Steve Kerr is going to do with what is a plethora of rotation options across the board. But one of them that he won't have is Kevin Durant, who is out for this game. And as he said, hopes to be back in the Abu Dhabi portion of their trip coming up here over the next few days.
Yeah, Canada will be interesting. They beat the USA in FIBA last year, winning a bronze. And the USA came away without a medal. A couple of players on the USA team now we're in that game as well. Tim Bontemps, thank you so much. Speaking of international play, we're going to go to the All England Club and the defending Wimbledon champ, Carlos Alcaraz, taking on Tommy Paul of the USA in the quarters of Wimbledon. He's never lost to an American player in Grand Slam play, but he was down a set and a break before he really woke up. Here's Carlitos just at the top of his game. He comes back and wins that second set at 6-4, and he was absolutely rolling. Maybe that was a wake-up call. He needed to dial up his game, and this was Carlitos at his finest, going on to win the third set 6-2. There was absolutely nothing that Tommy Paul could do. Alcaraz firing the backhand. Paul just cannot handle it. He goes up 2 games to love, absolutely rolling, sprinting to the ball, slides to make the return. I mean, Paul was helpless. Kevin, if Carlitos plays like this, if he maintains this level of play, it's hard to imagine that anyone can beat him as he looks to defend his title. Yeah. Takes it in 4 sets, his 6th major semifinal, his 5th since last year. Absolutely dominant in this one.
Okay, we got the first top 5 matchup on either side in this year's tournament on the grass, too. That is Jannik Sinner, the top seed, facing Daniil Medvedev. Sinner, 9-match winning streak coming in. First set tied at 6. Tie break here. Long volley. Medvedev drops one over the net. Sinner sprints. Oh, hunched over after the point. Breathing heavily. Later in the set, second set point opportunity for Sinner. Medvedev serves it out of bounds. Sinner gets the point, wins the first set, 7-6 in the tiebreak. So in the middle of the third set now, after Sinner drops set 2, look at this. Sinner gets treatment on the bench, not feeling well. He would eventually get up, head to the locker room. Medvedev trying to stay warm there while Sinner gets treatment. Sinner will return close to 7 minutes later and resume play. Later in the set point for Medvedev. Oh, his 15 aces. That's one of them. He wins the third set 7-6. Fourth set now. Sinner isn't done yet. Watch what he does. Lays one over the net. Medvedev charging. Can't make the return. Sinner still fighting. Not feeling good. We go to win the fourth set 6-2. So the fifth set. Opportunity for a break here for Medvedev. Exchanging forehands down the line. Right there. Medvedev keeping the pressure on Sinner. Later in the set, match point now for Medvedev on the serve. The return, backhand, beautiful. Medvedev knocking out Sinner in 5 sets. Medvedev is now 9-1 in major quarterfinals. He looks really good, taking advantage of Sinner dealing with, again, an ailment.